Good evening, everyone. This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. We're downtown studios today. It's a little bit cooler than we like this weekend. I am going to be bringing you the perspectives you love from the sides you hate on my own tonight. We're getting back to some basics. Lefty is out serving justice in the rural Iowa, so he won't be able to join us tonight. We do wish him well and safe travels. I secretly suspect he's trying to dream up some way that he can blame Microsoft coming to Iowa on Bush. I don't know. That's what he was telling me this afternoon. Anyway, we have a lot of fun ahead. We're going to be discussing a lot of things. We're going to be discussing all Hillary all the time. I think she should have her own channel, especially on like something like Sirius or XM radio. They have the Grateful Dead. You could have the Clintons. So that's one idea that's been floated out there. We're also going to be talking about the situation in Europe. The situation in Europe has not been on the front pages lately because we've had so many things going on here. You have the rollback of ISIS. You have the Iranian deal, which we'll be talking about later in the program. And so we're going to be updating everybody on Europe, a couple of pretty key things coming out of the European Union. First of all, everybody in Europe is getting ready for Greece to exit the European Union, including the Greeks. We'll discuss that a little bit. The situation in Ukraine is stabilized about as much as the Battle of Khe Sanh was stabilizing for Vietnam. There's a giant Russian buildup of arms and armament. They've already established a new government system called Nova Russia over there, which is, of course, New Russia. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Rod Bloom, and he introduced this bill that would ban lawmakers from ever being lobbyists again. And, of course, we're going to be talking a little bit about Iran, and in particular, what Obama would not do in order to get a deal with Iran. Now, I know all that sounds exciting. Hold your horses, right? Because right now we're going to be up with Hillary. And, I forgot to mention, DJ Maddie G is in the house today. I think we're going to come up with a new DJ name, Maddie. How about DJ Mad Dog? Mad Dog K. How's that? She didn't like that one very much. Anyway, let's bring up Hillary. She launched her presidential bid last week amid apparently great deal of secrecy because not a lot of people knew where she was going. They just knew that her van was called the Scooby-Doo and that she ate at Chipotle. And I'm telling you, the news coverage from just her stopping at a place to get a Chipotle. I've never eaten there. I have no idea what they have. But apparently she used some hot sauce on whatever she got. And apparently it was a full-on wrap. And that it's just been ridiculous. There are several pictures on Facebook, and you never really trust Facebook, but there are several pictures of people that I know that tried to go, and they're 200 yards away from anything remotely resembling her. Now, the press has been asking her all kinds of questions about what she's doing at Chipotle, where her next stop is for dinner, where she got her magnificent purse and her coat and things that are completely inane that had she been a man, nobody would have asked. There are a lot of questions that they should be asking her that they are not. Number one, where are all those emails? Why is yours the only server that got erased? Number two, what really happened in that conversation between you and Obama on the night of Benghazi? And three, what are any accomplishments that you've done in the Secretary of State service? What are your accomplishments in the Senate besides voting for Iraq and then condemning everybody who voted for Iraq? What are your qualifications for president? Media isn't asking her that. She did come up with something twice now on the campaign trail. First time she said everybody kind of thought she was just joking. Maybe had too much hot sauce on her tongue or something. But she wants to redo the tax structure. Now, any good conservative stops and goes, yeah, I'd like to redo the tax structure. I'd like to get rid of it. I'd like to make it a lot more even-handed. I'd like to make it so that people aren't punished for success. brace yourselves. That isn't what Hillary wants. What Hillary wants is the old tired adage of the liberals of picking and choosing winners. Specifically, she's going after the fat cats on Wall Street, which I don't have a problem with. I think these guys are a bunch of crooks out there anyway. But what she wants to do is people that trade, she wants to tax them at a much higher rate. And the problem with that is those traders out there actually perform a service that every American needs. When you're talking about traders, you're talking about people that go out and buy, billions of barrels of oil so that we have gas in our cars. You're talking about people who deal in corn and soybeans and pork so that we have food on our table. You're talking about people that deal in cement futures. Trust me, there's something called a cement future out there so that these people can get whatever projects they need done, build roads. She wants to tax them on a higher rate. A lot of these people make their money out in Wall Street by doing exactly what she doesn't like. And that is they go out, they make a trade, they make some money on the trade because otherwise, nobody here works for free. Manny doesn't work for free. I'm not working for free. In fact, I have to pay to be on the show. Who knew? Blake, he doesn't work for free, right? So you're taking these people that are taking a little bit of a markup. And what she doesn't like is that these things are technically capital gains. That's how they're defined. So let's say some old grandma or a union boss that's making millions a year wants to go into the commodities market. They want to invest in commodities or whatever they want to invest in. If they make, let's say $100,000, they get taxed at the 15% capital gains rate instead of the maximum, I think, is almost 40% now instead of 40%. That is an advantage to people that invest. That's what you want. You want investment in your markets. You want investment in your monetary system, which is what Wall Street is. When you're investing in bonds, that's capital gains. The U.S. Treasury benefits from that, and you get a percentage, and you pay a premium on the percentage. And she wants to tax all that. She wants to tax that at an income rate instead of capital gains rate. Well, the bottom line is pensioners like my mom and my dad, right? They've invested. That's what they live on. And now you're going to tax that. So not only are you going to tax pensioners, you're going to start taxing people like Maddie, who's wanting to get ahead, might invest, a couple $1,000s in, GM. You have any investments in GM? She goes, no, but she's got investments. And so the bottom line is if she happens to make any money on that, that's then taxed. And it's like, that's not really what you want to do. You want to encourage investment. And how this links, and I'm going to link this in the next segment, how does this really link over to the European Union and the problems they're having? I'm sure you all can imagine that. If any of you are having trouble finding the show, go to Ustream down below, and that will usually solve whatever problem you have. Anyway, so Hillary Clinton wants to do away with the tax code, but she hasn't really said anything else. She said the typical Republicans are mean. We're devils with forked tongues and a spear and everything else, that we're evil. But she really hasn't said anything substantive. And the other thing that is really starting to split the Democratic Party, because they're already starting to talk about old liberals versus new liberals. Kid you not. 4 or 5 articles this weekend about it. Hillary is splitting the party at this time because she's supposedly a moderate liberal. I don't know what's moderate about her. She wants to replace everything. Obama has done everything that Hillary and Bill would have done when they were in power. And it's like, well, now what are you going to do? So there's a lot of Democrats out there that are new liberals that are saying, well, hold on. She isn't the anointed one of which is Jim Webb. Now, we want to thank all of our sponsors. Coming up on a break, we want to thank all of our sponsors. Bertrosian Associates, Lubinas Law Firm, Halo Capital at Des Moines Interest Rates. That was kind of a spooky thing, like a ghost. Des Moines Anesthesia PC at 515-574-6442. Hit us up at docandlefty.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be back right after this break.
help you?
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Good evening, everybody. We are back on Doc and Lefty. This is Doc. Lefty is traipsing across rural America, dispensing justice wherever he can see to the highest bidder. That's not true. He actually takes a lot of pro bono cases, which is pretty nice for a guy who's from the left. We have DJ Matty G in the producer studio today, doing a great job. Can you pop up one of those Hillary pictures there for us, please? These are pictures you can find out of Hillary, and that's actually a good one. Where's another one? You got another one up there? Yeah. So in the last one, is there like two or three more? Two more. Show us that one. I love the cross-eyed. That, honest to goodness, that's what Lefty looks like at the end of every show. I'm telling you, right there. So, do you even know where that picture was taken from? That looks like one from the congressional candidate. See, and it's all happy and smiles on Air Force One. Now, one of the things that everybody needs to understand about these pictures is that doesn't show the complete picture. If you went around and you went to a lot of these parties, these political parties, both sides have, and I've gone to a ton of, actually both of them, what you see are these people taking a drink, trying to act like a regular guy or a regular girl in this case, and they try to get into the flow to try to show that they're human. I don't think Hillary's an alcoholic, which has been one of the accusations that she's had quite a bit, is that she drinks too much. You know what? God bless her, she needs a drink once in a while. I mean, who else in America is more reviled than Hillary Clinton, yet at the same time, most admired? You see that all the time. So I don't think she really has an alcohol problem. I think she's got a problem with not controlling her message. I think that's really what the problem is. Now, the trick is, and Joni Ernst, now I have a great deal of respect for her. She ran a great campaign despite being attacked routinely from the right, all right, about selecting David Kochel and a couple of other people that were with the Bush people. But the bottom line is Joni Ernst controlled her image. She controlled her message. The problem is Hillary Clinton is so defensive and so tight-mouthed about things that she then lets other people define what her stance is going to be. She starts to react instead of acting. Now that's a lesson she could learn from Obama. Obama is very open about stuff. He'll talk about anything. And the reason is he's going to define that problem. So the thing is what you see is she's losing control of her image by letting these things escape. Now, these are some terrific pictures. We've all had pictures that are terrible. And I can't imagine Maddie ever having a terrible picture, but I'm sure that she has out there. I know I have a terrible picture. I'll show you one right now. See, that's a pretty bad picture. Everybody has one. But you have to be able to control your image. And you have to not let the other side define you, which is what is happening. Not only is she under fire from the right and the Republicans, she's under fire from the left-wing people that run her party. And they're all like, well, you're not left nearly enough. And keep in mind, 20 years ago, she was about as far left as you could get. People said, oh, Hillary's a real whack job liberal. Bill's a pretty nice guy. That's what they said. This is how far our politics have been split. So the bottom line is she needs to get back in there if she has a chance to win this and reconnect with people. Right now, she's doing this listening tour thing. You know what that means? That means she's hobnobbing and trying to show that she's part of the people by keeping the people away. And she's going to listen to you if you have a megaphone and can scream it from the fence line. That's the kind of listening she's doing. She's ducking a lot of issues. One of the big issues that's coming up here in the last, I'd say, month and a half, is when she was Secretary of State, her foundation, her own foundation, not her and Bill's, but her foundation, received a ton of money from foreign countries. And that's, now I wish Blake was here because he could explain that, or maybe my brother Joe could call in. But apparently in one of the Articles of Confederation for the United States, there is something that puts a ban out there on what they call emoluments. Now, I took political science at Drake way back when. I still can't pronounce that word. Anyway, that's really what those fall under. So there's a real possibility that she is in direct violation of the Constitution and a violation of our finance laws over 200 years ago. There are certain exceptions to this, and they've been outlined over the years. But having a foreign company donate to one of your closely held businesses or corporations or whatever she has set up is something that's really not all that good. I think that's something that really could disqualify her. And what's really telling is this story does not come out of Republican media or right-wing media or even moderate media. It's coming out of places like Huffington Post. It's coming out of places like The Blaze. That's where they're coming out of. And, you know, that's bad news for Hillary if her own party's already turned on her. That's not very good at all. Give me a second. Oh, I thought that might be my brother texting something. One of the things that's going on, that when you start messing with the tax code and make it bad for investors and people that are going to go out and invest in things like real estate trusts and invest in things like gold markets, silver markets, hog belly markets, right? Or pork bellies. That's what you call them, pork bellies. When you have tax on that, what happens is people are then not interested in investing. And when you have people not interested in investing, it slows down what they call the velocity of money. And one of the things that Americans have always been excellent at is making sure that we maximize our profits, increase our velocity of money. The faster it flows, the more everybody else gets. And as long as you know everything remains stable, the velocity of money continues to increase on its own. That's what we've seen. It's not Keynesian economics. It's just old-time economics. You just worry about the velocity of money. If you go out, it's much better to make $1 on 1 million units of something rather than make $1 million on 1 unit of something. It's much easier to get 1 million units bought, sold than it is otherwise. Now, how does that? Now, what lesson is this for Europe? Europe, and we're going to talk more about this next segment. Europe has really discouraged investing in anything. They have high taxation. They have a high tax structure. They take a lot of money from people who make it to distribute to those who don't make it. And it's really a problematic approach. People don't have money to invest in things like the European stock market. They don't have money to invest in gold. They don't have money to invest in pork bellies. They don't have that money. It's taxed. And the people that do invest are punished. Usually at a higher rate, and it depends on the country, but usually a higher rate than you would if it was income taxes. Now the next segment, we're going to talk about something called the Grexit, which is today in modern parlance, you can't just have the Greek exit. You have to combine it so it's cool. And that's what they're calling it, the Grexit. And we're going to talk about how that is going to impact Greece's exit from Europe and what that's going to do to the EU economy. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be talking about the Greek exit right after this.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I was in consulting with Maddie. Just barely made it into the seat. That's the kind of excitement we have here on the show at Doc and Lefty. One of the things that nobody knows is that even though it's a green screen and, it's fairly obvious, but there's a giant window right to my left and people come by and take a look and I'm sitting in a fishbowl. Sometimes they'll come by and they'll knock or they'll wave. And it's really kind of cool. The reason I mention that is because we're moving to a new studio. Have you seen the new studio, Mad? No? It's over in the old Merle Hay Mall Towers. If you're familiar with Des Moines, you got some age on you. You remember back then, they used to be apartments. It was really cool. It was the place to move, kind of like the Brownstones now in Des Moines, and in downtown Des Moines or anywhere in Waukee or Adel. It was the place to go. So they've converted a couple of these into suites, and so we're going to be moving May 15th. Is that the move date? So we'll be moving over there. So it's going to be a good time over there. Now we were talking about what? Oh, you found the picture? Now, when we talk about Iran, okay, go ahead and show the picture. You got to see this. Thanks to Jason. I think that's the picture we're gonna show whenever Hillary does something goofy. Is there a way we can save that? Because of course, the problem is these people are just humans. I mean, they're not supernatural. I mean, I'm kind of on this Ancient Aliens kick. If you ever seen that, that goofy guy with the big old hair on there. Honest to goodness, I think the qualifications beyond that show is be able to deliver those lines with a straight face, honestly. But anyway, we're going to, she's a human like everybody else. She's going to gaff it up. So, we figure we have a little bit of fun with that. And keep in mind, we're right now, Blake and I are writing a blog about who we admire most in politics. And she's going to be one of the women I admire most in politics. I mean, look at the obstacles she's had to overcome, namely her husband, right? And she's still in there swinging. You got to admire the guts of a woman like that. You have to, right? And it's the same kind of fortitude that's shown by a lot of female politicians, including our own Joni Ernst. Anyway, back to the Greek exit. I get a little bit distracted. And Blake's not even here. I can't even blame him on it. So the Greek exit. The Greeks have elected a far left, ultra liberal, socialist government. And what they have said is, we're not paying anything back. You guys can go suck eggs, for lack of a better term. And we're going to take care of our pensioners, and we're going to give every dime we can to people who aren't going to work. That's what our goal is. And so you can see how Germans went, you got a lot of our money. And the IMF went, hold on, you're about ready to miss a deadline. And the rest of the EU went, bye. So that's really what happened, right, when they announced this. The problem is they made the next payment, but they made it by not paying anybody in the government. They made it by restricting the money the pensioners get and everything else. How popular do you think these people are going to be, right? They have to deliver on a promise of, we're going to 40 mules in an acre kind of thing. So with the Greeks getting set to exit the Eurozone, what really happens? Well, if you look at the papers, the way they've been drawn up, the people that have given money to the Greeks from the Eurozone are basically out that money. If the Greeks exit the Eurozone, that debt goes away. The only debt they have remaining is from the IMF. Now, everybody out there is going to go, well, but hold on, they'll still owe money, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they will, but it's not going to be collectible. It would be, and Blake would know this, and my brother Joe would know this. It would be like trying to squeeze blood from a turnip. You get something kind of red colored out of there, but it isn't going to be what you want. It's definitely not going to be what you're looking for. And that's the problem with the Greek exit. They're going to take billions and billions and billions out of the economy of the EU simply by not paying it back. I mean, they made a $500 million payment here, was it the 21st, so about 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's $500 million. That's how much they owe. That's just the interest payment. Can you imagine that? Just the interest payment on it. They got to make that 4 times a year. It's quarterly payments, 4 times a year. Unbelievable. So you're talking $5 billion a year just in interest payments because it was 400 and some odd million dollars that they had to pay. So you multiply that. Well, my math is off. So you multiply that by 4 and it's $2 billion. Still quite a bit of money. You have other people that are looking at this, particularly Italy, going, well, hold on. If they leave and they got to take all that money and they don't have to pay it back, suddenly our finances are looking pretty good too. Gosh, I wonder what would happen if we left. And that's already starting to rumble around at those people that run the EU, particularly Angela Merkel. She was asked if the Italians might pull out. She says, we have no indication of that. They're good partners. She said all the politically correct things. But the bottom line is they're worried that this is going to create a domino effect. Now, one of the things that Greece is thinking about doing is they've already come up with this plan to tax all the people that have any kind of money. They're going to tax it all. They're going to collect all the monies from offshore that these wealthy people have. And what you basically had is a flight of wealth from Greece because they're going after the Wall Streeters. That always sounds like a good idea. They don't ever seem to do anything. It's like Warren Buffett. I mean, it's found money. He didn't actually go out and produce anything. He just was great in investing. George Soros, he's a raider, all right? Not the Oakland Raiders, which are not all that great of a team anymore, but he's a corporate raider. He made his money from stripping assets from what other people built. So you think, well, fine, taxing people like that, they don't produce anything, they don't do anything. You don't understand. These are the people that actually keep the country running. Greece has already gone after the wealthiest, and they've all left, which has created even more problems for Greece. They started increasing their capital gains. They started increasing all the other taxes, which then created a secondary economy in Greece. They talk about the unemployment rate over there. It's not nearly as bad as what people say. Don't get me wrong, it's bad. It's really bad. But there's a giant secondary economy where nobody pays any taxes. That saves everybody a lot of money. And when you don't have that much money, right, and you need to buy food for your kids or even food for yourself, instead of going down to the market where everything's taxed, you can go to the black market, get things that way, cigarettes, booze, whatever it is. And that's really what's going on over in Greece. So now there's far left organizations like, well, we're going to tax even more investments that people make, which is just creating this giant spiral further and further down. The Germans see it. The EU people see it. France sees it. That's just amazing. But yet they're going to continue on with this. And Italy is trying to do the same thing, just in a much more subtle way. Ireland, who really was in just as bad a shape as Greece was, really managed to get itself together by utilizing proper cuts, proper tax increases, and they've got themselves out of it. They're now financially solvent again. Now, the one country that did avoid that whole mess was Great Britain, and they were smart. They said this is exactly what would happen way back when. So the big losers of Greece exits, number one is Germany, and number two the IMF, because they're going to have a heck of a time trying to get this money back from them because it's billions. We're going to be back right after this break. We're going to talk a little bit about Iran and what Obama won't do to get himself a deal over there. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Bertrosh and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Checking my texts, making sure people are getting their answers questioned or their questions answered. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Oh, we have a call. It's my brother Joe. All right. Well, let me find a set of headphones, and we'll talk to Joe here in a second. Joe, how you doing? Is he on there? Joe, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah, and Merry Easter to you.
Yeah. Hey, just wanted to tell you, I really miss Lefty tonight. And
I can feel it.
I was going to text you and just ahead of the show and just to warm up for my text that are anti-left wing stuff, but I didn't.
Okay,
hey, I left my dad's room where we watch your show, and so I'm not quite sure where you are in the show at this time.
We were going to talk about Iran and what Obama won't do, but if you have something from a previous segment you need to talk about, then knock yourself out.
It's relating to Hillary Clinton.
All right. Well, let's get the picture up there of Hillary.
Well, I'm not going to see the picture, but I'm assuming we all have bad pictures of ourselves, and I noticed your picture tonight when you just went behind or went out from under the microphone. However, the biggest story to me that's not getting all that much coverage is this new book coming out by Peter Schweitzer.
Yeah.
Peter Schweitzer has written a couple great books, and I know he's a former Bush speechwriter and works for Breitbart, which is a right-wing outfit. However, 60 Minutes has covered him on both those other books, and I think Schweitzer's a pretty even-keeled gentleman, and he always has his facts straight. So with regards to his new book, I think it's called Cash. It's called Cash in the Clintons or Clinton. Oh, Clinton Cash is what it is.
Yes.
I think he's really got some traceable points, and of course, New York Times has picked it up and also run with it. And I think, I think we'd all agree that New York Times is anything but a left-wing newspaper. But I think that, as much as anything, is going to derail her. Because I think, the Schweitzer's been able to trace that, the president, former president, made $500,000 or more a speech during the time that Hillary was Secretary of State, and it just happens to be that these countries where he gave these speeches were also getting sweetheart deals championed by Mrs. Clinton. So his speech, cost per speech went up drastically, and I think they're going to be able to trace this directly to some if it doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right type of scenarios.
Okay.
So I don't know if we'll be able to trace it point A to point B to point C, but I think there is enough here that it's clear that she shouldn't have been having her husband making these speeches to foreign countries, getting $500,000 a shot while she was Secretary of State.
Well, and that's true. Now, keep in mind when Bill was president, that's when we suffered several espionage incursions from the Chinese, who later turned out to gave almost $1 billion to the Democratic Party and the Clintons while they were in White House. And Do you happen to know the article, the article of Confederation I'm talking about? Which one? I think it's Article 2.
No, I don't.
All right.
I caught just part of it, and I wasn't sure what you're getting at. So.
Yeah, well, it's in there, and of course, that's the one piece of paper I forgot to bring into the studio. So, all right, but you think that's going to be a big deal? I think it's going to be a big deal too, because, like I said, places like HuffPo, that's Huffington Post, and the Blaze have mentioned that these things are really nasty. I mean, they're calling her they're not calling her names, obviously, because that's reserved for Republicans and Republicans only. But they're really questioning her integrity, and that's something to question. A candidate's integrity. You can question, what they're doing, what they stand for, what kind of idiot they are. But to sit there and say, well, geez, you're lying, and the rest of it really creates a ruckus. So, do you have any? I
don't have any doubt that the Clintons have always run under the table. I think that their history is such that they finagle things and they just think that they're not going to get prosecuted. And I believe right now that under this administration, as much as there's rumors to the effect that the Clintons and the Obamas don't like each other, they'll never do anything to investigate her through the U.S. Department of Justice. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the big issue, and I think it's that the graft and corruption is getting so bad in Washington, almost everybody accepts it. And that's why people anymore are more anti-government than they are either Democrat or Republican.
Yeah.
And I think the Republican base is actually losing a lot of ground because the Republicans tend to also look the other way to all of this stuff.
Yeah, and I would agree. There's been one of the things that's happening, and just as a brief aside, you get a lot of people that just simply don't like the Democratic Party platform, and they have a tendency to. I mean, if you take a poll and you just list the party planks, most Americans will identify with the Republican Party plank. But if you ask them why don't you vote Republican, they always say because I can't trust them to vote with the way they should. Now, with that,
we got that right now.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, I believe Rod Bloom is from your district up there, right?
That's correct.
And he just got done introducing legislation that said if you've ever been a lawmaker, a federal lawmaker, you can no longer lobby. What do you think of that?
I think that's a great idea, but it will show you who's in it for graft and corruption.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's just a simple no-brainer proposal. Whether it ever gets to the light of day is a different story.
Yeah, but at least he did it. And here's the thing. He did it in a heavily Democratic district up there. So
yeah, and he won up there in part too because Pat Murphy, who was a candidate, alienated a lot of people with regards to some cronyism with his wife's employment at one of the hospitals. And that's getting beyond the point. But the other thing I would like to note about Clinton, Mrs. Clinton, is and I know she could change her behaviors, but she cannot change her personality.
That's correct.
And again, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I would think that's what I've always been taught, and I think that's what my wife tells me all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
You can change my behavior, or you can change my behavior, but not my personality. However, I think this rollout this last week was just, to me, shows how out of touch she is with the American public, as well as how out of touch her campaign staff is. And it was such an artificial rollout, and to have these fake meetings and coffees with people who are found out to be Democratic operatives only.
Yeah.
It just even looked on TV, even if you didn't know that it was a contrived scenario. Yeah. So she's not going to be able to light up a room, and she's going to be pretty much a difficult person to really like. So, again, from my observation, I think her personality is going to be the same. And if she can keep the I'm a woman type of argument going, fine. but that's not going to fly in a general election.
No, and I don't think that's going to help her in Iowa. I mean, there was a big rejection of Hillary beforehand, and that gave President Obama the initial victory that propelled him on. So she's really got an uphill fight.
Well,
Now,
what I would like to know, Pat, and maybe you know this, but how do these people start these foundations?
well,
and
you
do
get
they
yourself
get
a
to pay
crooked lawyer
themselves?
first.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. And I honestly, as you know, I've paid for the college of 3 kids, and 2 of them are still being paid for. And I keep thinking it would be nice to get one of these foundations together and
Yeah.
see how the Clintons do it. But
Well, yeah, and that's really one of those things. I mean, every major Politico has one. Doesn't matter who it is. Huckabee has them, Bushes have them, Clintons have them, Soros has them. They all have these things. In fact, Jeff Gordon. I was watching Meek Motto auctions this weekend. Jeff Gordon has one. So I mean, you get some money, and then suddenly you set a foundation. People send money in. That's how it works. Well, the last thing I want to talk about is my tie. And this is a
beautiful tie.
Yeah. Hopefully Dad recognizes it because it's his. So it's
He did, and he asked me, he goes, "Is that a Statue of Liberty on his tie?" And I said it was. So,
all right.
So it's a very nice tie. You look very nice, but
you miss Blake. I know.
And I do miss Blake, and if he's playing somewhere this weekend, I'm probably going to be over in Des Moines myself on Saturday.
All right.
So just if anybody wants to go, the Marshalltown has a dog show, and as you know, I've got some Bernese Mountain Dogs, and one of which will be shown at 11
terrific.
o'clock at the fairgrounds in Marshalltown.
All right. That's terrific.
And then I'll be down. So.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, Joe. We're going to take a break.
All right.
We'll be back right after this. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We're going to continue on about Iran right after these messages.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and coming back from the commercial break. Thanks to my brother Joe for calling in. We're going to get on with Iran. And basically, the question is what won't Obama do to get a deal with Iran? Well, the number one thing he won't do is stand up for the United States and our interests. Nobody in the world thinks that Iran should have nuclear weapons. And in fact, most Iranians don't even think they should have nuclear weapons. The bottom line is they're a rogue state. They've been declared a rogue state. They've been a rogue state since the Iranian hostage crisis. What an embarrassment that was to us. And I understand, in politics, time goes on. You need to move on. But the bottom line is they're still a theocracy. They're still willing to sacrifice their children and their sons and daughters in wave after wave of suicide attacks, all for the sake of Allah. Now, that is one thing that Blake and I do agree on, is if you have a theocracy, the chances of these people becoming fanatics and creating worldwide mischief rises exponentially. I mean, Archduke Ferdinand, assassinated by a fanatic. Boom, the entire world at war. Countries wiped out, millions of citizens killed, millions of soldiers killed. Imagine a nuclear Iran. How many people are going to die with that? Nobody thinks it's a good idea. The Russians, they think it's a good idea because they get money from them, but they're not really providing them. They're selling them parts They're not providing expertise. China doesn't think it's a good idea. And at the very same time that we're negotiating with Iran because the original premise was we're going to prevent Iran from getting weapons, period. And now it's down to, well, if we can delay that for 10 years. Well, that's not something you suddenly change midstream. You don't go, oh, all right, 10 years from now when, when my children are nice and safe in a bunker, you can have them. That's not the approach you take. But at the very moment that we're trying to let them get away with, we're going to remove sanctions. Number one, they agreed to it. We're going to lift those sanctions immediately. That's what the Iranians think. The White House has said, well, there's a compromise and we could release anywhere between $30 and $50 billion if you sign it with a, quote, snapback, quote, sanction. Anybody that knows anything about how the government works and about how sanctions work know that there's no such thing as a snapback sanction, period. It doesn't happen. It's a nice little spin doctor move because what happens is it will take you years and years to get those sanctions back. That's ridiculous. At the same time we're doing all this, we're not going to, and we're even saying, yeah, we won't have inspections of certain nuclear reactors, blah, blah. None of that. If you don't have inspections and spot inspections and snap inspections, it doesn't do you any good. These are people that have repeatedly violated treaties, have violated agreements to everybody, not just us, Europeans. And the only time they agreed to let the European Atomic Agency in is after we invaded Iraq. And then they went, hey, we probably ought to let these fellas in. That's the only time that they have been cooperative at all. So what that tells you is they now sit there and say, geez, we have a sucker on the throne over there. We're going to ask for everything. And that's exactly what this Ayatollah is doing, going straight for the heart. While all this is going on, we're dispatching a missile carrier group to shadow, mind you, a flotilla of Iranian weapons flowing into Yemen to support Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and ISIS. That is specifically that's the intelligence we have. That's the intelligence that the Europeans have. It's the intelligence the Russians have. In fact, I suspect the Russians are the ones that gave us that stuff. So we're going to blockade it. We're going to prevent the Iranian weapons from reaching Yemen. This doesn't sound like a very nice deal for us. The number one thing, and I learned this from my brother Mike. My brother Mike, we were down at the car auction one day, and there was a car that he really wanted. I mean, and I forget what it was. It was a Corvette or Camaro, something like that. And he really wanted it. And it still sold cheap, but he turned around and walked away. So I was talking to him about it, and I said, hey, why'd you walk away? That was the car you wanted. And he looked at me and he said, the art of the deal means that you're willing to walk away when it gets too expensive for you. You have to set your price point, and then after that, you have to be willing to walk away. The problem is the price point Obama has is a deal at any price. That's spookily reminiscent of Chamberlain going peace at any price. Comes back with paper. I have paper. We will have peace in our time. That's exactly what Obama is doing right now. He's trying to shore up his legacy. Obamacare has turned into a bust. Cash for clunkers was a clunker. Everything that he's tried to do has led to more misery. And the only time the economy turned around is when suddenly oil fell. That's the only time you started seeing people building houses. It's the only time you started seeing any kind of upstarts in new housing development. It's when you started seeing prices start to fall again and people could afford the things that they wanted to buy. That nothing to do with Obama. So here we are. We're not willing to walk away from a bad deal because in Obama's eyes, there's no such thing as a bad deal with Iran because at least he can say he did it. Now, when we come back after the next segment, we're going to finish up by the treaties. There's a lot of hullabaloo back and forth between Congress and the White House. And, the Congress has final say. And does the White House have final say? We're going to explain that a little bit. And then we're going to go on to our final subject, Oh, which is the European update in Ukraine. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back right after this break.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. We're missing Blake tonight. My brother Joe actually has apparently plans out his attacks on him. So we're missing him. We hope he drives back and is safe out on the roads, dispensing justice. I would like to thank, I'd like to thank our sponsors, BertrocheandAssociates.com, Lubinas Law Firm, Halo Capital, Des Moines Interest Rates. Also, Des Moines Anesthesia, they do pain management as well. They have offices here in Des Moines and Fort Dodge, 515-574-6442. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and hit the website at docandlefty.com. Now, back to the Iranian thing. Now, interesting, my brother Joe just sent me something that, we all know that President Obama is from Kenya, has Kenyan roots. And what I didn't know is apparently he is Shia, and Valerie Jarrett, who is one of the principal architects that Obama relies on quite a bit, is from Iran. I mean, apparently grew up in Iran. Now, everybody knows I'm a big conspiracy theorist. I'm going to have to work this one out before I go full blown on it. But that really makes you stop and go, well, now that makes a lot more sense, because what he's doing now, the only thing that makes sense is he's trying to establish a legacy. And, and people have done dumber things. I mean, everybody goes to the Middle East and try to establish a legacy. He can't do it with Israel because he's done everything he can do to make sure those guys are not on his side. So the bottom line is he's doing stuff over there that he shouldn't be doing. He's not doing a very good job, and he's basically screwing America in the process. Now, there's a lot of people out there that say, well, Congress gets a say in this. If there's a treaty out there that they make, then the Senate has to ratify it, don't they? No. If it's a treaty, then it has to be ratified by the Senate. And that's covered very clearly in the Constitution. It has to be ratified by the Senate before a treaty takes place. That's why the Kyoto Accords haven't been signed, because the Senate, in their wisdom, said, hey, this looks like a big shaft job for America. Now, the thing is what he's doing is what they call an executive agreement. And what that basically means is, in today's age, it's very cumbersome to go try to negotiate with the Russians for delivery of grains and then back to us and have the president do that, right? So the State Department takes care of a lot of that. And, they have these trade agreements set up, and they're basically executive agreements. That's what they are. Sometimes we have treaties we want to formalize and strengthen our ties. That's what it's for. The problem is for Obama, even his own party is going, man, this deal sounds like it sucks. It sucks for us. It sucks for the Europeans. It's great for the Iranians. And the Iranians are happy and celebrating in the streets. Whenever you're in a deal and you walk away and you think, man, I really shafted that guy, then that's a one-sided deal. And whenever you walk away feeling like you the shaft, that's a one-sided deal. We're not getting anything out of this. Nothing. We're not keeping Iran from getting weapons. We're not stopping Iran from going nuclear. We're not doing any of that. That's the goal. So the bottom line is even President Obama's own party said, hold on. We sent this letter. we're telling the Iranians, you're going to have our approval. And that has forced Obama to back off a little bit on whatever you need, just give me an agreement. Just give me something for my legacy, right? Now, the problem is that's the kind of legacy that leads to a nuclear war legacy, all right? If you look at, who ultimately was responsible for World War II? France and England, because of the way they set up World War I, the end of that. That's who's ultimately responsible for World War II. It's going to be the same thing here. And who's ultimately responsible for letting Hitler off the chain? Neville Chamberlain. Just like President Obama is going to be remembered as Neville Chamberlain if he actually gets this deal done. So he has his own party calling in saying, you're going to have to get our approval. Otherwise, we're not going to give it to you. And we're going to make sure that is not an executive order that can go. Now, the executive agreement can last, but only a short period of time. It has to, Congress will have its say. They have mechanisms in place to put blocks on this executive agreement rules and laws. So that's why suddenly Obama backed off a little bit, started moderating his tune. But the bottom line is we have a framework that is terrible. And the Iranians are already saying, unless you remove the sanctions immediately upon signing it, we don't have a deal. And Obama's already capitulating on that. So we get back to the question, what won't Obama do? Obama will not stand up for American safety, for our rights in the world, and to keep Iran nuclear free. He won't do any of those. Now, we're going to go on to another person who is pushing Obama around pretty significantly. That is President Putin. Now, honest to goodness, I sit there and I think to myself, if we just had a leader like him, because he reminds me a lot of President Reagan. President Reagan had to overcome a lot of dissidents back here in the United States. Not dissidents, dissidents. It's a different thing. President Putin has had to overcome that as well. And what he's essentially done is he's recruited the people that were his enemies into his fold and everybody else he had killed. So he's a combination of, Vince Foster and Ronald Reagan. That's really what it is. So the bottom line is in Ukraine, there's a massive buildup of troops in Novorossiya. And there's a lot of Russian friends I have that are all excited about this. Until I remind them, this is why we had the Cold War. And then they blame America. I tell them, you don't see America, invading Cuba. Oh, wait, why was that? Because the Russians had put a ton of missiles in there. America is good at responding. We're not all that good at acting, at being proactive. So that's what's going on in Ukraine at the moment. You should see them. There are massive trenches, massive earthworks, all kinds of stuff all the way around the border of Donetsk and the Donbass region. Here's what the trick is. The Russians, and this is where Greece comes in again. See how I bring the entire show around? The Russians just got done working a giant deal worth billions and billions to the Greeks and the Turks. This deal got the Turks and the Greeks to work together. Where instead of piping oil and gas through Ukraine, they're now going to pipe it through Turkey and Greece. Isn't that something? So now what you really have is Putin striking at the underbelly of not only Europe, but NATO itself. Our key ally, the one we need, is Turkey. And he just made a deal to run billions of dollars of gas and oil through Turkey and Greece. If you don't think that's a scary prospect, and if you don't think that doesn't spell disaster and doom for the Europeans, then I think that you've just stuck your head in the sand and are hoping everything will blow over. I hope those people that aren't paying attention are right. I hope this doesn't mean anything, but it does, and it will, because Russia has always been led by a cult of personality leadership, and Russia wants Europe. They've always wanted Europe, and Putin is an idealist that's always wanted an imperial Russia like it was in the old days. That's it for our show today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Don't know what the subject is, as usual. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I usually ask Blake what he's doing. This is what I'm doing this weekend. I'm turning a Sporty into a trike. My friend Rex Bullard, a good friend of mine, is coming in. He's getting married, so we're going to be celebrating that. And my son's also coming in town. We'll have a good time. See everybody next week. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.